Let's dive in. So, just a couple of logistical things before we get started. I'm going to share my screen at some point in a moment. Feel free as we go along to ask any questions in the chat. I will be saving all questions for the end. So if you don't mind staying muted the whole time, that'd be greatly appreciated because this will be recorded for your future reference. And at the end, I'll open up the floor whether you want to unmute yourself or ask questions in the chat. Please feel free to do so. But if along the way you have questions and you don't want to forget them, you can pop them in the chat. Just know I will get to them at the end of this little lecture. I will also be sharing some YouTube videos and some other things like that, so I might be switching my screens a little bit, so just bear with me. But just to show you some great exercises, I wanted to share some YouTube videos with you. Alrighty, and if there is no questions before we get started, I'm going to dive right in and start sharing my screen. So welcome. Let me minimize this so you can see it. Like I said, my name is Carrie McGinn. I'm a physical therapist and a yoga instructor in the Boston area. I am an avid hiker and I create a lot of programs and wellness opportunities around hiking. So today I'm bringing you Hiking Prep 101. We're going to dive into a lot of good stuff today. So we're going to dive into the benefits of hiking, some things to consider, how to prepare your body and mind, some logistical preps, talk about a plan and packing, and really talk about mental and physical prep. When it comes to hiking, being prepared is the most important thing you can do for your safety, for your physical body, for injury prevention, even to mentally have the best time possible. So first, let's dive into some of the benefits of hiking because it's always good to know what we're getting ourselves into and why it's so important. So physical benefits of hiking can lower your risk of heart disease, improve blood pressure and blood sugar levels, can boost some bone density. Walking and hiking is a weight-bearing exercise, and it can really help build strength in your glutes, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, all the muscles of your hips and lower legs. Can help strengthen your core, improve your balance, and really control weight, relieve insomnia, and improve sleep. So these are just some of the myriad physical benefits of hiking. There are many others I'm sure I missed out here, but these are kind of the top ones I'd like to hit. And really, hiking is overall a really great fitness activity for all levels. And I really truly believe that all levels can get hiking, especially if well prepared. And I also believe that no matter what level you are hiking, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, you still need to prep. Everyone needs to prep physically, everyone needs to prep mentally, everyone needs to prep logistically for hiking. So whether you've never gone on a hike before or you've gone on a million hikes in your life, a lot of these tips that I'm going to give you will still stand. So some of the emotional mental benefits of hiking. Hiking is really great because it can help improve mood. It can keep your mind sharp, really increases feelings of calm and happiness. It can really help improve relationships with others, especially when you're hiking together. One of my favorites, and I use it for all the time, is it can help increase creativity. And it really helps us unplug from technology. Most of the time, you don't have self-service when you're out on a lot of hikes. Not all, but some. And increases our connection to Mother Nature, which is really important for our overall health and well-being. And it actually indirectly helps improve the health of the world around us because we will want to take better care of the earth when we're more connected to Mother Nature. So it's one of those kind of like double benefit type of things. So before we dive into any of the specifics, let's talk about some key things to consider. Are you ready to start a hiking kind of journey? Number one, check with your doctor. If you're dealing with any physical or mental health things that are going on right now, just double checking with your doctor that you're safe to get out on the trails. The doctor might have some recommendations. This can just help screen out for medical history and medical conditions. And then check in with your body. As much as I love checking in with a doctor and PCP, you know your body best. So you want to make sure that you are ready to go physically for your hike. And we'll talk a little bit about exercises and stretches that will help that. But just on a baseline, kind of checking in with your body and noticing, like, how do I feel? Do I have any lingering aches and pains that might hold me back that I want to address? I would recommend, and I am biased obviously because I'm a physical therapist, but I'd recommend checking with a physical therapist for any physical aches and pains like joint pain or muscle pain, as they can best help you to resolve those. And then doing your research beforehand, even just in general, doing your research of the area that you live in. What hikes are available? What time of year is the best to hike? What does the wildlife look like? What does the weather look like this time of year? Obviously, this year is a little bit different. If you're on the East Coast, there's a lot more rain. So just kind of checking the weather and also just knowing the baseline weather for your area during that time of the year. August is traditionally hot. Fall months are traditionally cooler on the East Coast. So just knowing where you are, so it will help you pack and prepare better. And then checking in with your gear, making sure not only that you have the right gear, but that it's in good condition. A lot of things like hiking gear, we only use them kind of a couple months out of the years. Not everyone is hiking during the winter time, so they can sit in a closet for long periods of time. We might not remember what condition they're in. So if you're waking up first thing in the morning and want to head out for a hike and you don't know what condition your gear is in, you just want to check in advance so you're not left rushing around last minute or not left with less than ideal gear. So these are kind of a couple things to just check in with before you even talk about like the specifics of prepping. Check in with your doctor, check in with your body, do your research, and check in with your gear. Doing all these things will get you started on the right foot and set you up for success. So let's chat a little bit about gear. I'm not going to dive into, there's a million and one different types of gears and brands out there. So I'm not going to be giving any specific recommendations, but I do want to talk a little bit about gear checklists and the importance of gear when hiking. So having proper hiking gear is really, really important. It can help prevent injury. If you have an ill-fitting backpack and you're holding it for long periods of time, it can cause injury and discomfort in the head, neck, shoulders, and low back. If you don't have proper shoes, it can lead to slips and falls and twists of the ankles, things like that. So having the right gear can really help prevent injury up front. It can help you keep safe and prevent disaster in case there is inclement weather that comes up or goodness forbid, an emergency, and having the right gear can really keep you prepared in case of the emergency. Obviously, you hope nothing happens when you're out on the trails, but it's always, always, always important to be prepared first. So what to take on a day hike? This is kind of a basic packing list to think about when you're going out for just a single day hike. One, a hiking backpack to put stuff in. And I really recommend getting a hiking backpack that's fit for you, not fit for someone else in your family. I've made the mistake of trying to steal my partner's backpack. He is taller and slightly broader than me, and I ended up getting some nice little blisters underneath my arms after wearing it for a full day. So just thinking things like that, thinking hiking backpack that fits you and that can carry your things. Weather appropriate clothing is super important. Really thinking about moisture wicking, so not cotton, and wearing layers. When you're hiking, layers is one of the most important things that you can bring with you or wear. Hiking boots or shoes, something with a nice tread, is super important. Making sure you have plenty of water and plenty of food. I personally always tend to overpack in these two categories because I'd rather be safe and then sorry. And the last thing anyone wants is a cranky hiking partner. Navigation tools such as a map and compass are really important. And I will share like a quick misadventure there. I thought I was going on a really short, really easy hike the other day, and I had everything prepared, but I couldn't find my map for the area. So I figured I'll have service, I'll look at it on my phone. And of course I got there and I no longer had service. So I actually ended up having to cut my hike short because I didn't have a map with me. So instead of kind of pushing through and goodness forbid getting in a situation that was unsafe, I had to not go for the hike because I didn't have my map with me. I didn't feel like I was well prepared in that case. So just making sure that you have a map and or compass and that you know how to use them. A first aid kit is super important. It can just be a basic first aid kit. You can buy them online. There are specific just hiking first aid kits, and they actually come in the kind of, you can buy like 1 day first aid kits, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, things like that. They have like the amount of stuff you might need for hiking X amount of days. a knife or a multi-tool, and the 10 essentials. So some of the stuff is in the 10 essentials, but I'm going to pop into the 10 essentials next. The 10 essentials are things that no matter what hike you're going on, whether you're going on, and I should say, there's a difference between a hike and a nature walk. So it's a little bit more about hiking. But these are things that you should have anytime you're hiking, especially solo, whether you're going out for a day hike or a multi-day hike. And these are the 10 essentials that all hikers should have with them. So navigation, we already talked about. For most people, that is a map or a compass. If you're doing anything kind of bigger or longer or more remote, you can have a personal locator beaker, some GPS devices, some satellite messengers. Those are all kind of like next level multi-day hikes, but just like to leave them on there in case that's on anyone's bucket list. A headlamp is really important as well, especially if you are going on a hike that ends up taking you a little bit longer. It's always nice to have a headlamp so you can see the trail in front of you hands free, because you might need your hands while hiking, plus extra batteries for that headlamp. Sun protection is also equally as important. Sunglasses, sun protective clothing, sunscreen. When you're hiking, you're usually out for longer periods of time, so you want to make sure you have extra sun protection to add on as the day gets hotter. A first aid kit, including foot care and insect repellent. I will be honest, insect repellent is one of the more important things that most people often forget. When you are in the woods, when you're in the mountains, there tends to be a lot of bugs. And it can really put a damper on the hike if you're constantly like getting bugs out of your face. And I'm just going to pause for a second and ask that everyone make sure that they're muted, just so we have the best sound quality for everyone involved. And then a knife plus a gear repair kit is also really important. We kind of talked about that just a little bit. And then for the sake of emergencies, you want to make sure that you have either fire matches, a lighter, tinder, or a stove of some sort, some way to make fire in case you are stuck and you need to stay warm. And along the same vein, shelter carried at all times. So there's things like emergency blankets, or it's a bivvy it's called, that you can create into a shelter to keep you safe in case there is last minute inclement weather or dangerous weather. And then the last three are really just extras of what you're already going to be packing. Always pack a little bit extra food than you think you're going to expect. Always pack a little extra water than you think you're going to need. Same thing with clothes. I always have in my backpack, regardless of weather, an extra rain jacket and an extra fleece in the bottom of my hiking backpack at all times. Even if it's a hot summer day, those two things never leave my backpack, actually, along with a hat. Those three things never ever leave my backpack, whether I'm going on a 90-degree day or whether I'm going on a 50, 40-degree day. So those are the 10 essentials. Next up, preparing your body and your mind. So like we mentioned with the body, check in with your PT or MD to make sure your physical body is ready for new activity. Make sure you're buying gear that fits and supports you. You don't, obviously you can always use hand-me-down gear, but you don't want to try to squeeze into tighter gear than you need or get really loose gear that you might get blisters in. It can be really uncomfortable to have gear that doesn't fit, and really when you're out on a hike and you hike an hour out and you need to get back an hour in and you have ill-fitting shoes, it can really slow you down. Stretching is super important before and after your hike, and we will talk about specific stretches in a moment, as well as strength training to prevent injury. Hiking is one of those activities that I think a lot of us forget how physically demanding it is and how important it is to prep for it. I see way too many people who treat hiking like just a walk to the office, and it's a lot more physically demanding than that. It's physically demanding for our muscles, our cardiovascular system, and our balance, and it really requires proper strength training. And like I said, we will dive into all of that in just a moment. And then prepping your mind. Set a goal for your hike. Set a goal time, set a goal trail, set a goal of when you're going to start and when you're going to end. Just have an idea. That's always subject to change, but you want to set a goal so that you know what you are getting yourself into. You want to look at a map before heading out so you know what to expect on the trail. And you want to make a plan. And by making a plan, I mean not only like this is the route I'm going to take, but if you kind of have points where you can rest, where you can find water, and we'll dive into that in just a moment, a little bit deeper. And then most importantly, tell someone where you're going and give them your plan. Hey, I am starting at this trailhead at this time. The hike should take me this many hours. I should be back in my car and back at this time. I should be able to reach out to you by this time. If you don't hear from me, let someone know. And then really planning in your mind for ups and downs, knowing that if you were to run into any difficulty, that you have a plan can really set you up for success in the hike so that you feel confident and capable when hitting the trails. You don't want to be in a situation where you're anxious the whole time or nervous the whole time. You want to feel confident with what you are doing in your hike. So when we talk about a plan, these are some things that we want to look at in terms of a plan and sharing the plan with someone else. So like I've mentioned multiple times, hiking begins before you reach the trailhead. As much as it sounds nice to just like think about, I'm going to head out and go to the closest trailhead and not really plan at all, it's really important to start planning before you get to the trailhead. And that is a lot of times also is because you won't necessarily have service when you get to most trailheads. Let people know where you'll be hiking and what to expect. Like I said, the time, the date, the location, how long it should take you. And really study maps, whether they're on your phone or paper, before you head out. Have a good idea. There's apps like Strava and All Trails. Those are two really great apps. I can pop them in the chat afterwards that are really great. And I will show you, actually, I will show you one of them when we pop off, but they have really great maps that you can download, or you can get a paper one as well, just so you kind of know some of the key landmarks and where you're going in case you don't have service or you get a little off track. Look for possible emergency exits kind of along the way in places where you can get water refill if necessary. And then really identify more than one water spot in case it's really dry out. And then think about time. So think about how long a hike should take you. Most trail guides will have this should take you approximately 3 hours, 2.5 hours, things like that. And that will be something you'll be more confident as you hike more, like how fast you hike, but it is also going to be dependent on elevation gain and the terrain. So just things to think about. And then factor in your walking speed based on the number of people of hike and fitness level. It's all subject, like I said, all those trail guides have examples, but it's all subject to who you are with and what fitness level you're in. And another really useful tool is for every 1,000 feet of elevation you gain, add about an additional hour of hiking time. So say you can walk about a 20-minute mile. Just walking. If you're gaining 1,000 feet of elevation gain, you want to add in an hour. So it would probably take you an hour and 20 minutes to get up. And yes, you might be overestimating it, but it just gives you an idea of when you know you need to start at a certain time so you can get back before dark. And then really graphing out your route, highlighting the route, noticing potential campsites, water stops, major roads, just really planning the best that you can. And then last but not least, checking weather and packing accordingly. So that is all kind of like the logistics of how to plan for a hike, how to get up into it, how to start as a beginner. Now I want to dive into fitness and getting your physical body ready for hiking. So some general fitness recommendations when it comes to hiking. Number one, you want to increase strength in major muscle groups that hikers commonly rely on. Things like your legs, your quads, your hamstrings, your hips, your calves. Strengthening the muscles around your knees, your ankles, and your hips is going to be super important, as well as your core. Your core is going to stabilize you, especially when you're hiking uphill or downhill, and especially when you're on uneven surfaces. Another key thing to know is you want to build endurance in these same muscles. Most times when people are exercising on a daily basis, say in just any exercise routine, they are really only going to be exercising for 30 minutes to an hour. When you're hiking, most hikes are over an hour. Even an easy hike that has 1 or 2 miles to it is going to probably take you at least an hour, if not more. So really improving your endurance for your muscles as well as your strength is going to be super important. And sometimes that just means spending more time on your feet, slowly increasing your walking in your day or your running or whatever your kind of activity of choice is. Can you go for a walk that's an hour instead of 30 minutes, things like that. And then improving your balance. Walking on uneven surface is pretty much a guaranteed when you're hiking. And the better your balance is, the more likely you are going to prevent injury when you're on the trail and have a better time. And like I said, we're going to go through a couple different examples of all of these. And then really don't forget your cardiovascular endurance and fitness. Hiking is a very demanding cardiovascular activity. I'm reminded of it every time I go uphill, and I train my cardiovascular fitness. So it's always good to keep working on your cardiovascular fitness. So let's get into some specific exercises and how to kind of incorporate them in. So these are going to be some strength training exercises that you can do. I personally really love lunge variations, step ups, and balance challenges. Those are kind of my like top 3 categories of exercises for people to do. There are a ton of different lunge variations, there are a ton of different step ups, and there's a ton of different ways to challenge your balance. I'm going to show you in just a moment a YouTube video of some knees over toes lunges. We'll talk a little bit about elevated lunges and walking lunges, and then a couple different step up variations. On the left hand side here, these are step ups. You literally put one foot up on a step, holding weights in your hands. You can even wear a backpack. You press through your foot, step up, and slowly step back down. You can also do this trying to step up really fast and lower really slow, playing around with the tempo. Balance challenges you can do once again also in a million different ways. So you can do a single leg stand and just balancing on one leg. You can stand on one leg and turn your head from side to side. You can stand on one leg and close your eyes. You can stand on one leg and bring the opposite knee up. So many different ways to train your balance. And like I said, we're going to share some YouTube videos in just a moment. So those are the 3 categories that I like to start people in if they don't have a strength training program. A lunge variation, a step up, and a balance challenge. That is at the very minimum what I like to work with people on. Some other exercises that can be equally as helpful, the calf raises, which is just having your feet on the ground, lifting your heels up and back down. One of the most underrated exercises for anyone out there, whether you're a hiker, a runner, just a normal general fitness. Squat variations, different types of squats, some band work, walking and outer hip work, and then core work such as planks and side planks, as well as step downs. So those are just a lot of really basic ones, but what I want to dive into is 4 of my favorite exercises for hiking. So I am going to exit out of this and just pop up my YouTube so that you can all see that. And there might not be sound, so I'm actually going to keep the sound off and just talk you through this exercise. So this is a lunge variation. So what you are going to do is place your left foot forward and your right foot back. You're going to get really low here in a lunge. Stay upright, nice and tall. And you're going to stay low and do a lot of little small pulses here. This is working on endurance for the front and back quad here, as well as length in the hip flexor. You want to make sure you do it with each foot forward. And once again, you're getting low, you're getting kind of holding and then small pulses. Ideally, you'd be doing this for upwards of like 15 to 20 repetitions. Another way to kind of increase this challenge, and don't mind me while I'm chatting at you, is you're going to do a pulse, little hop. It's an explosive variation of this lunge. Pulse, hop. This works on not only endurance, but power and strength. Once again, making sure you're doing it with each foot forward. You also get a nice little stretch to that back leg as well. So those are called lunge pulses and lunge pulse hops. We're going to pop right into my next favorite exercise, which is, knees over toes squats. So actually, I'm going to start with something else first, and we'll come back to this one. I apologize. We're going to go to Patrick step ups. This is a step up variation that I really, really personally love. And you're going to be up on a step, and you're going to put one foot forward and off the step, and you're going to slowly, let me get up to speed. So you're standing on one leg, you're going to stick the other foot out and slowly lower it to the ground, letting the knee go over your toes and keeping that back foot there. And then you're going to reverse that motion, kind of press through the left toes and lift yourself up. This is really great for hiking because it helps you improve your ability to control your descent downhill. So you're stepping forward, and you're going to watch how this on this next side, I'm going to roll it up a little bit. Your knee is going to go over your toes and your heel will lift, and then you press through your foot and stand back up. These are called Patrick step ups. You can increase it by adding weights to it, by increasing the height. And you can also add a backpack here if you want to simulate hiking. So that is one of my other favorites. This is another really great exercise for the quads and the outer hips that I absolutely love. You need a wall here, and that's really it. So you're going to work on gluing your outer hip to the wall. Let me just pull this forward. And you're going to stand on one leg and be on the toes of your opposite leg so that you are mostly have your weight in this outside leg, this left leg. And then you're going to perform a single leg squat. So you're going to sit your hips back, bring your chest forward, and hinging at your hips, sit down as low as you can, and then come on back up. So you can notice the foot that is closest to the wall doesn't have a ton of weight in it. So this is great for balance and hip strength, as well as quad strength and core strength. Once again, you want to do this on both sides. And last but not least, I just want to see if I can bring it up. I have one other one that I want to show you. Use over toes lunge. This is by far one of my favorites. I might have to show you someone else's because mine didn't pull up for some reason. Alrighty, well, I'll show you this on someone else's. So this is a knee over toe lunge. This also helps with a lot of quad strength and quad endurance, and it really helps with the descent. So you come into this 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, and you hinge until your knee goes over your toes, and then you press through your foot and you come on back out. You do not need to hold it as long as this fellow is holding it. He just happens to be demonstrating here, but that key of your being upright, that knee is going over your toes, and then you are coming back out of it and reversing, coming back up to stand. This person has a lot of mobility, so they've clearly worked on it a bunch. All righty. I'm gonna head back to my lecture. So those are just a couple of my favorite exercises. Those are all on my YouTube channel. If you just find Live Good, Feel Good on YouTube. So a couple things I want to talk about is stretching mobility pre and post hike to also prep your body. If you're doing all this strength training, all this hiking, you definitely need to be stretching as well. So I just want to pop through some of my favorite stretches in seated, in standing, and on the trail. So these are 4 of my favorite stretches in seated. This one in the top left-hand corner stretches the outer hip. It is a figure 4. You just cross one ankle over the thigh and hinge forward. The top right corner is a hamstring stretch where you extend that left leg, hinging at the hips to reach forward. And these two are actually a seated cat-cow, which is a yoga pose. So they're kind of the same one, where you're just moving the spine. So thinking about inhaling, lift the heart, arch the back, reach your head to the sky. And then exhaling, tuck your chin around your back. And you can repeat those as many times as you want. Some other great stretches kind of along the way. This is a nice stretch for the quad, the front of your thigh muscle, making sure your knees are in line and that you're sitting up nice and tall. You pull the heel towards your bum. You can do this one while you're on the trail. And obviously I have benches here. We can always find a rock. This is a great one to stretch out your hip flexors. And this one, obviously your foot doesn't have to be up that high. It can be on the bench and you can stretch out the hamstrings and the spine this way. These are some really great post-hike stretches. On the top left-hand corner, this is a variation of a hamstring stretch using some blocks. This one here is the same one I showed you in seated before, but is on your back, figure 4. So I have my right ankle crossed over my left thigh. I'm just hugging the left leg in. This is a really nice hip flexor, front of the hip stretch. And then this is a yoga pose as well, downward dog, which really helps open up the shoulders, the hamstring, the calves. Downward dog might be my favorite stretch for post hiking. So last but not least, I want to dive into some resources for you. So on the left-hand side are some really great books to kind of get you familiar with nature. One really beautiful one, it's long, but The Lost Art of Reading Nature's Signs, really using outdoor clues to find your way and predict weather. Super fun, super awesome. It's a big book, but it's really interesting. Finding a trail guide book for the area you're hiking in. They make them specifically for the areas. I have a couple from Massachusetts, like specifically for the Berkshires and Western Mass, and then a couple for Eastern Mass. I have one for hiking the Whites. You can get them for all different locations. A really fun one, a really small one, a pocket guide to hiking and backpacking by REI. REI, the retailer, has a lot of pocket guides that are really useful. They have a pocket guide for first aid, pocket guide for all different sorts of things. And then for women, and really one I loved reading was A Woman's Guide to the Wild, your complete outdoor handbook. It just talks a little bit more about specific things around women in the outdoors and addresses that. Some other resources is I have a City Summit program, strength training program. REI.com has a ton of amazing articles, resources, and free classes, as well as some paid classes to prepare you for hiking. And then a Hiking Prep 101 ebook. I actually have a Hiking Prep 101 ebook that I am happy to share with you all, and I'm just going to pop that in the chat box. It's a lot of the exercises that we went over with just a couple other of the YouTube videos attached to it. So in just a moment, I'm going to stop this screen share. Yep, that is it. I'm going to stop my screen share. I'll give you the link for the Hiking Prep ebook, and then I'll open up the floor to any questions you may have. Let me just get out of there. Beautiful. All righty. Any questions from that presentation? I know I went over a lot, but the good news is you do have that recording. Alrighty. That is the best place to get the ebook, Hiking Prep 101. And you will have all these exercises in the recording. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a great day. We have a great recommendation for a hike safe card for New Hampshire. And that, goes to show every state is slightly different in their access to emergency services, their check-in, checks out for hiking. So making sure you're also checking with the state resources and state regulations in the state that you are hiking in, and knowing that they're slightly different for each state because of different terrain, different resources, things like that. Of course. Have a wonderful day. Any last minute questions before we head out? Happy to answer any ones you have. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you so much for joining me. It was truly a pleasure to be here. And please hike safe. Bye, everyone.